In one of them I heard about this morning in Khan Yunis near the south of Gaza, there are 600 people for every one toilet. The medical supplies are running out. People can't access food because Israel has bombed bakeries, they've bombed water tanks, so people can't access water. My own staff are drinking dirty water. They're collecting firewood to try to cook bread because they have no fuel, no electricity or gas to run their cookers. And so the situation is just utterly horrific. It's a living nightmare for people. And the other thing is that the Israeli bombardments of the south of Gaza continue as well. So even when people are fleeing, they're not fleeing to safety. They're not fleeing to a place where their basic needs are going to be met, because the situation there is so utterly grim, and no chance of it getting better anytime soon unless and until we have a ceasefire. That's the only way out of this. There isn't a military solution. There never has been, and there never will be.
And again, can I ask you, I say again because I asked this question of someone else yesterday, there's been a talk from the Israeli government of some kind of field hospital and other supply routes being allowed for without any bombardment in the south, near the Rafah crossing, on the beach roads, on the coastal roads. Any evidence of that happening?
I mean, I don't know if this is the idea of pushing almost 2 million people into a tiny strip of land in the southwest of Gaza, which is massively dangerous. And we've seen previously in other conflicts, particularly in Srebrenica, where so-called safe zones were used to push people into, and then those people were killed. So I think we have to be very clear that we can have no truck for that. And I want to also be...
But hang on that. Can I just challenge that a little? Rather than your view on it, is it happening? Because even if
I mean, no,
it's not happening. Yeah, because I'm just thinking, like, if you're a person on the ground there and somebody says there's a field hospital, you can go to the coastal road and you can get some help and you can get some water and you can get your wounds dressed, that would be welcome, I guess, in the grand scheme of awfulness.
I want to be really clear. Like, all we're asking for here is usual humanitarian practice in conflict zones. We're simply expecting the laws of war and international humanitarian law to be upheld, and what that means is that civilians have to be protected wherever they are, including in the north of Gaza, and the aid workers, including my own staff, have to have free and safe access
in order to deliver that.
Yes, and we don't at the moment. Even in the north of Gaza, we have some items right now. We have some medical supplies and some hygiene kits which we could distribute to people in need, but we're unable to for two reasons. Firstly, because the bombing is indiscriminate and ongoing, and secondly, because there isn't any fuel. So part of what's expected in a humanitarian response is that we should be allowed to have in food, water, shelter items for people, fuel, these really basic things, and they're just not happening. I can't overemphasize the scale of the crisis here.
No, I mean, I say I understand. You understand more, obviously, because of the work that you do, but I hear what you're saying. When Anthony Blinken, as he has, and I think his voice is one of the most important in all of this, isn't it? When he repeats, Israel must stay within international law, Israel must protect civilians. You've described their bombing as indiscriminate. Again, I just say Israel says it's not indiscriminate, it's targeted, and they inform as many civilians as possible so that they can leave. And again, I take on board what you've said about where that leaves those civilians when they do leave. But Anthony Blinken is insisting, and the British are supporting that as well, the British government is supporting that pauses are all that can happen, that a full ceasefire at this stage would fly in the face of Israel's ability to destroy Hamas. That's why they're still supporting the no full ceasefire position. Are you telling me that 4-hour pauses, even if they were every day for 4 hours, simply aren't going to cut it for the people that you're helping?
There's no way they're going to cut it. You know, something like a 5-day pause to start with would be helpful and would help some of the basic things to be done that need to be done, including dead bodies which are lying in the street being eaten by birds. I mean, this is where we're at right now. And in the past, when there have been escalations in Gaza, and there's been nothing like this in the past, but in the past, a series of pauses is always what has eventually got us to a ceasefire. So we need to move rapidly in the right direction. But like what is happening at the moment are not pauses. It's just that people are being further forced to flee. We're unable to get any aid in. And to your point before that, I would point you on international law. I would say to you that of the more than 10,000 people, including 4,000 children who've been killed in Gaza in the last month, 2/3 of them are women and children. And I would point you also to the words of Andrew Mitchell, who's the Foreign Office Minister here in the UK, who said that bombing a hospital is a war crime. Of that, there is no doubt. Right now, there are 22 hospitals in Gaza that are damaged. Half of hospitals are out of action because they've either run out of fuel or they've been bombed by Israel. And so the idea that international law is being upheld is very clearly untrue.
Can I throw Hamas into the mix here? Because, and I know you're not a spokesman or a political person, spokeswoman or political person, but you are making, you know, very specific remarks, and I understand why, about the bombardment, because you're talking about the Israeli bombardment. But Hamas is the government of Gaza, and Hamas could, of course, surrender. Hamas bombed a school in Israel, in Eliat, in Israel, where lots of people have fled from the south for shelter themselves. I'm not saying the situation physically in Israel today is the same as it is in Gaza, but important to note that that is also a war crime, bombing a school. And a place where lots of refugees in Israel have gone to. The problem that you face and the people you're trying to help face is the hard reality is that the brutality of October the 7th meant that Israel just was always going to go in incredibly hard. And some Hamas leaders have said, millions of people died in Europe to free their country. Civilians are going to die. That's their attitude to their civilians. And they've said the UN can look after civilians. The World Health Organization can look after civilians. Hamas isn't looking after its own people.
Well, I think the fact is that the World Health Organization can't look after civilians. None of us who are humanitarian organizations are able to look after civilians. And so you're absolutely right to say that any attacks on civilians, any attacks on schools and hospitals are horrific and unacceptable. Whoever conducts them, Hamas, the government of Israel, they're absolutely unacceptable. And so I bring us back again to the laws of war and to what's actually happening here, is that they are clearly not being upheld. And the problem is that the British government is not intervening in that to put pressure on Israel to make sure that the laws of war are upheld
publicly. Anyway,
that's all we're expecting here, is that international humanitarian law applies, that the death of women and children can stop, that people, you know, women who are having C-sections without anaesthetic just now is utterly horrendous. And at what point are our own government ministers and others going to say, that's enough dead children, now we should move towards a ceasefire?
And I promise you, I'm not saying this for whataboutery, I'm saying it because I'm a journalist. There's an Israeli woman dead who had her baby taken out of her stomach, and the baby was stabbed to death in that October the 7th attack. And I wonder whether the horror you described, the horror I've added to the story with that example, means that I think we're probably fantasizing of any ceasefire, because the response is bound to be huge, and the pain is bound to be huge. It doesn't mean international law should be followed, I get it, but you see, you said it yourself, this is like nothing you've ever seen. October the 7th was like nothing Israel had ever seen.
Well, I would point you to what also happened before October the 7th.
I know.
And what is happening in the West Bank now. Even since October the 7th in the West Bank, almost 50 children have been killed by Israeli soldiers and settlers. So this is not just about Gaza, it's also it's about what's happening to Palestinians.
The wider need for peace,
of the occupied Palestinian territory. You know, there's the videos I was watching just earlier of settlers in the West Bank accompanied by Israelis. This is the West Bank. It's not. It's
which
not
we have covered on this program, just to reassure you.
There. And honestly, Sheila, if the horrors that are happening in Gaza weren't happening right now, we'd all be talking about what's going on in the West Bank. And indeed, before the start of October, I was talking to politicians here in the UK, saying, look at what's happening in the West Bank.
And what went on in Israel, I hope, as well.
Before the October the 7th, I'm saying, before that happened, already in the West Bank, more people had been killed by Israeli soldiers and settlers in the West Bank than at any time since the UN started counting. And then, of course, you're absolutely right that civilians being killed and attacked in Israel is horrific, was horrific, is unacceptable in every way. Of course it is. And it is what is being done now in Gaza with our government's go ahead is an abomination. 4,000 children dead. At what point do we say that is enough? Nobody believes there's a military solution to this. It will have to be a political solution in the long run. And my question is, at what point does the world say now is the time to put pressure on both sides? Because a ceasefire is a negotiated. It has to be negotiated by both parties to the conflict. But at what point does the world say, okay, that's enough dead children? We will now move seriously to try to find a political solution to this.
Melanie, thank you very much indeed for our conversation. Melanie Ward, Chief Executive of Medical Aid for Palestinians. It's 2:48.
LBC. Join me, Sam Pittis,
and me, Katie Brathwaite,
for our brand new podcast, You're Wrong About ADHD, where we share our experiences of discovering we had ADHD as adults.
We'll look at the highs and the lows of getting a diagnosis, how to navigate relationships, and best of all, look at the tips and tricks for day-to-day life.
We'll be talking to top experts to help us learn more about ADHD.
You can listen to You're Wrong About ADHD now on Global Player. Download it from the App Store or go to globalplayer.com.
What you got yourself for?
We're going to start digging a few spots now with the dad fob.
If you're looking to take the next steps to turbocharge your business, get in touch with NatWest.
Why did you choose to do crisps?
For potato farmers, we wanted to find other ways to market our potatoes. We wanted to make good quality crisps. We've been with NatWest for a long time and we needed their help. They've made this possible and they've secured our future.
And now get 2 years free everyday banking if you open a startup account or switch to NatWest Business Banking, backed by the current account switch guarantee. Search NatWest Business. Tomorrow begins today.
Criteria apply. Turnover under £1 million for startup, under £2 million for switch. Standard tariff thereafter. Switchers must use full current account switch service. Can't transfer another NatWest Group business account. Other fees may apply. Often may be withdrawn.
Tonight's Euro Millions jackpot is £25 million.
Now that calls for a dance, Dermot.
Yeah, not the best answer.
Hit it! Dip me, Dermot! Dip me like you've never dipped before!
Get that Euro Millions feeling tonight. Euro Millions from the National Lottery. Play on app. Estimated jackpot. Account terms, rules and procedures apply. That must be 18 or over.
You can do this. You're Tom Daly. Spin, knitted jumpers in first, pirouette to the trunks, detergents.
Perform better on Sundays. Get half-price electricity, 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. with Peak Save from British Gas. Proud partners of Team GB and Paralympics GB. Ends 31st of December. T's and C's apply. Smart meter required.
With UK Export Finance, I'm fulfilling more export orders from around the world with working capital support.
Export insurance means I'll get paid when exporting to challenging markets.
At UK Export Finance, we believe no viable UK export should fail for lack of finance or insurance. Between 2022 and 2023, we provided £6.5 billion of government-backed trade finance to support UK exports. Learn how we could help you win export contracts, fulfill orders, and get paid. Search UK Export Finance today.
10 green bottles standing on a wall.
Oi, are you going to an egg block bucket?
I'm wondering where the next charger is.
There's a BP Pulse charger coming up any minute, love.
Well, in that case...
And if one green bottle should accidentally fall,
Nothing keeps happy you going like knowing when a BP Pulse charger is nearby. Download the BP Pulse app to keep you going. BP's here for your travel needs, mostly with petrol and diesel, but BP Pulse already has over 3,000 rapid and ultra-fast charging points.
Do you know what it takes to win £1 million?
Whoa, that's a huge amount of money.
I've put real people into a James Bond adventure and placed questions around the world.
Climb the crane.
You weren't expecting that.
Oh my God.
I wonder if there's anyone out there who has what it takes to go all the way. £1 million.
Call 0345 6060 973.
We've been talking about social care and ageing after some warnings from the Chief Medical Officer for England, Chris Whitty. You've been telling me your own experiences and your own ideas and thoughts, good things and bad things that you see out there. Michelle has a positive example. Hallelujah. Hello, Michelle.
Yeah, I just wanted to ring up Sheila and just tell you what a positive experience my mum is having and what a fabulous mum she is.
Great.
She lives in a charity-run place called they're a charity called Extra. And it's like a retirement village, and like your last caller said, he said, oh, you can't sell these places for love nor money. Well, we don't have to sell it. We sell it back to the charity, and then they sell it on, and you sell it back to the charity for the amount of money you purchased it for. But anyway, that's another thing. But I just wanted to tell you how fabulous it was.
Well, tell me what it's like.
It's like a hotel.
No, you didn't.
It's like a hotel. The only thing they haven't got is a swimming pool.
Well, I can't go there.
Changes to their home,
Yeah.
free to go. And yeah,
Does it have that?
yeah, definitely. Even through COVID.